was watching a film on television last night. It's quite an old film actually, called Vanilla Sky, with Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz and I can't remember the other actress, so it'll come back to me. But it's quite an old film, but I hadn't seen it when it first came out, and I wanted to watch it because of the soundtrack, which was partly featured Sigur Rós, which is this Icelandic band that I quite like. But it was quite an interesting film. I really liked it actually. And one of the things I liked, well, there's a lot of interesting features within it, but one of the well, it'll be a bit of a spoiler actually to tell you the whole thing, but it doesn't really matter. One of the ideas that comes in it is that you discover towards the end that large parts of it are a lucid dream that's happening in the head of Tom Cruise whilst he's cryogenically frozen. Wasn't aware you could have lucid dreams when you're cryogenically frozen and dead, but in this film you can. But within the dream, a guy appears who for some reason has got an English accent, but he announced himself as tech support, and he's a kind of guide or a counsellor who appears to Tom Cruise in his dream and gives him advice about how to proceed. Appears on a couple of occasions. What's interesting for me about that is the role that character plays in the film is like a counsellor in real life. It's like a Freudian counsellor or like an analyst of some kind who gives advice. But what's interesting about that particular role is that whereas a conventional analyst within a kind of psychoanalytic framework, something like that, might ask you about your dreams, might ask you to interpret your dreams, might describe those dreams. Of course, with that kind of process with you, they don't actually go into the dream. They don't actually go into the dream with you. This is something that James Hillman talks about actually in that book I've mentioned a few times, The Dream and the Underworld. He says that well, just said what I've just said really. He says that when we analyse dreams, we analyse it from a position which is of wakefulness, and using the logic of wakefulness. We don't enter into the dream, cross the bridge into the dark space of the dream and carry out an analysis there, which I think for James Hillman is a shame really. But that is what happens in Vanilla Sky. It's not exactly an analysis, it's a kind of guide. So the tech support chap in Vanilla Sky kind of advises Tom Cruise on where he is, what wise actions would be in that space, and indeed towards the end of the film when to come out of it, when to wake up. The nearest thing I've seen to that in lived experience is a psychoanalytic. It's not psychoanalytic actually. It's a kind of counselling strategy called clean language, which was a technique devised by somebody called David Grove and practiced by, well, there's a book about it actually called Metaphors in Mind by Lawley and Tompkins, which is quite good. And I did a workshop with them once and it was very interesting. But the idea is that obviously you can't actually get into someone's dream, but you can get access to their, if not their dream landscape, then their metaphorical landscape. And here I'm kind of following from those ideas that come out of Lakoff in relation to dreams, that the landscape of dreams is metaphorical. So when you're exploring someone's dreams, you're exploring the structure of their metaphors, some of which are repressed, some of which are overt, and so on. So whilst we don't have the technology, we don't have that kind of tech support ability to enter into a person's dream, we may have the possibility of entering into their metaphorical landscape through something like clean language. So the idea in clean language, and there's lots of it all over the web, is that if you take a kind of acceptance, a position of acceptance in relation to what people say about their inner life. So if someone is saying things like, "Oh, I'm really stuck right now. I feel like I'm just bogged down," or "I'm not going anywhere. I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels," that kind of thing, you just accept the fact that they're employing a metaphor to do with movement, an inability to move, a kind of a set of metaphors to do with motion and travel and not getting where you want to go, and that kind of metaphor, and take it seriously. And there's a series of very simple questions that you use in clean language to move that conversation on. You don't ask them to describe the nature of the vehicle or anything like that. It's much more passive than that, or much more just reflective. It's a little bit like Rogerian analysis, something like that, where it's reflective. But you encourage them to develop their metaphorical landscape so that they understand it for themselves a little bit better. And presumably you are able to have some control over it, and possibly even able to kind of wake up from it, in the sense of being able to either find a different set of metaphors, or to stop using metaphors, possibly. I'm not sure if that's possible, but to have a different kind of relationship, to kind of wake up, in the Tom Cruise sense, to the dream that we're all living on a moment-to-moment basis in the back of our minds, through the deployment of these metaphorical systems for explaining things to ourselves and understanding things. There wasn't actually as much Sigur Rós music in the film as I thought, actually, although they do have a really good soundtrack.